Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. You have to ask, what's going on in the minds of Glasgow City Council? They seem to have a downer on one particular group. They keep bringing in legislation or announcing plans for legislation that constantly targets this same group. I think it's possibly discriminatory. There may even be grounds of using the 2010 Equality Act against them, even though this is not defined within the Act as a protected characteristic. I think that given the spirit of the Act and a blatant discrimination on a group, it may well come in under the aegis of that Act. And it may be worth some lawyer out there on a bit of pro bono work to have a look at it and see if he can take the GCC to court. Because of policies that they've already enacted, policies that have announced, and policies that may well be coming soon, all seem to be targeting one particular group. And if you're a driver in Glasgow, you're screwed. And this is because they need your money, and they need lots of it. And the latest wheeze they have is going to ensure they get even more of your money, but only if you're part of this group that they're particularly targeting. And who is that group? Well, it's poor people. They just don't like the poor. Let's have a look. So, fresh blow for Glasgow drivers as council looks set to introduce emissions-based parking permits. Now, of course, we'll have a look at the first thing they did, which was the low emissions zone, which, of course, has got nothing at all to do with emissions. It actually should be called poor people zone, older car zone, because it isn't based on what comes out the arse end of your car. It's based on what car you can afford to buy. If you can afford a newer car, then fine, you're welcome into the city. But if you're poor and you can't afford a new car, you're not welcome. And of course, it's the poor that are the ones least able to upgrade their cars to meet this. So that's number one. Number two, they recently announced a congestion charge. They want to put a charge on people coming into the city. Now, that means if you want to go into the city, you have to pay. If you're in the city already and you want to drive, you have to pay. And again, that affects lower paid people far more as a percentage of income than it does the wealthier. So again, that's 2 out of 2 so far, charging poor people more. And now they're bringing in this emissions-based parking permits. And you can guarantee, given that they're using the same database, it won't be emissions-based. It'll be how old your car is. In that case, again, targeting the poor more than the wealthy. And so what it is, it's going to be that you pay more for parking if you're driving an older car than if you're driving a new car. Again, targeting the poor. Perhaps if they were to say percentage of income, so we'll charge you a percentage of your income rather than a percentage of the cost based on the age of your car, that could be conceived as being more progressive and fairer. But that's not how they're going to do it. They're merely targeting poor people yet again. They really don't like the poor people coming into Glasgow, do they? Or anyone. And it almost as though they want to destroy businesses in the city. Because let me tell you now, if you've got to go to a shop and buy something and it's big and bulky, you're not getting that home on the bus, are you? Anyway, older vehicles will be subject to higher permit costs if the city gets its way in Glasgow. See? Not emissions, age. But campaigners say the SNP and the Greens seem determined to rip the heart from our city, which is what they do. They want to destroy all this wealth. They want to destroy the wealth. They want everyone to be poor. They want everyone to be miserable. They want no businesses so that they can control you and lie to you and say, vote for us, go independent, we'll give you this marvellous new utopia to live in. People are wising up to them. They're seeing what they do. Anyway, LEZ campaigners have been riled up once again by Glasgow City Council's latest attempt to target vehicles in the city, this time with carbon-based parking permits. Bullshit! It's not carbon-based parking permits, it's how poor you are parking permits. The new permits will lead to the drivers of high-emission cars, no it won't, paying more to park in Glasgow's 21 parking zones. And like the LEZ, the scheme forms part of the drive to increase the use of cleaner, low-emission vehicles across the city. Nothing to do with emissions. I keep saying it, you can drive your 6.3 litre Mercedes through the city perfectly fine. Drive that 1.1 Corsa that's a day out of date and you're screwed. This has got nothing to do with emissions, nothing to do with clean, nothing. All to do with how poor you are. Based on the new proposal, people living in the city centre would pay between £250 to £600 a year annually, depending on the carbon emissions of the vehicles. And outside the city centre, it would range from £80 to £300 a year. Though this remodelled system, 5 bandings for vehicles will be created based on carbon generated. No, it won't. You can guarantee they'll be using the same database for that as they use for the low emission zone, and therefore it doesn't attack by emissions, it attacks by age of car. Emissions-based parking permits have been enforced in Edinburgh since 2009, and they're also found in many boroughs across London. However, local business owners in Glasgow say the SNP Council is actively penalising those who can't afford to upgrade their cars. Bang! Two minds, single thought. Target the poor. Drive the poor out of the city. This is gentrification. This is almost a wealth genocide. We don't want poor people anywhere near here. You poor people, please go out and live somewhere scummy. We want to save the city centre for us wealthy people. And in terms of the council, they're only wealthy because of the people that are paying their bloody wages. The council argues that transport accounts for about a third of the 2.4 million tonnes of carbon currently produced in Glasgow every year. Can they prove that? Can they back that up? Have they got anything for that? With private cars responsible for the largest share of transport emissions. Well, that's strange, considering the dirtiest part of Glasgow was the bus station. But this hasn't washed with the leader of the anti-LEZ campaign, garage owner William Patton. God bless him, he's the one taking them to court. He said it is now clear that car drivers will be off limits for the city of Glasgow. Every owner of businesses, restaurants, bars and entertainment venues who've approached me say that this far-left council, they're extremely far-left. They are almost Stalinist, this council. Of SNP and Greens seem determined to rip the heart from our city. They are actively penalising those who cannot afford to upgrade their cars. They're anti-poor. That's all they are. It says, at the risk of repeating myself, we have demonstrated from our international consultants' report that pollution in Glasgow is well below the accepted norms and has been for quite some time. And there was no need for phase 2 of the LEZ to be introduced. We've seen statements from former senior SEPA, Scottish Environment Protection Agency employees, that there can be only 2 explanations for the council's published figures. And this is from SEPA. And he's saying either they are lying or they are stupid. I don't think that. I think they are lying and they are stupid. I think both of those fit. Fellow campaigner Michael Bergson, the owner of Bucks Bar and the Thundercat Pub and Diner, said, what I can't get my head round is that Glasgow City Council keep telling us that they need billions of pounds to pour into the city from big businesses to support the Golden Z plan. But there's going to be nobody in the city to go to these high-end shops and restaurants. There is a severe lack of joined-up thinking. It's the SNP. There's no thinking whatsoever. You have to be a moron to stand and become an SNP politician, and you have to be sub-moron to vote for them. Now, all these people voting SNP, oh, look, I'm Glasgow. I'm in Glasgow. I'm going to vote SNP because they're the bestest ever. The wild-eyed loons, you know. And then they're sitting there going, why is that shop shut? Why is that bar shut? I used to like going to that restaurant. Why is that all shut? Why are they all shutting? Because business is being driven out of the city by this bunch of Marxists sitting in the city council who don't want poor people anywhere nearby and keep going anti-car and making it harder and harder for businesses to succeed. And when any business does succeed, they put the bloody rates up because they need their cut. It's like the mafia. It's a protection racket. You know, we'll let you can trade, but you have to pay us some money. That's what this is. Donald MacLeod, MBE, City Nightclub impresario and spokesman for Scotland's Nighttime Industry Association, added, at this rate, those who live outside the city boundaries will seek their retail and entertainment needs elsewhere, and all that money that normally goes into Glasgow will fly out and go to somewhere else. Glasgow will start to resemble a ghost town if this policy comes into play. We need further investment in the city to make Glasgow an attractive proposition to outside investors. I think London or foreign-based property investors will become very wary of coming close to the city centre if this policy was implemented. They'll run and hide. They're not going to go anywhere near it because you're anti-car, you're anti-people, you're anti-poor people in particular, and you're driving businesses to the wall. So you're obviously anti-business. Why? And we know why. Poverty. That is the goal of the SNP. Poverty and destruction, a wasteland. and then they can sell the dream of independence even harder. It's exactly what the National Socialists did in Germany in the 30s, and they are doing the same thing. Look at us. We can lead you to the promised land like some mad Moses sitting there. Only this time the Sinai, it seems to be the River Thames. They're trying to split London apart, drive that wedge between England and Scotland in order to provide the people of Scotland with this perfect vision of a united Scotland, all together under one SNP banner, all under one progressive leader who will lead forever and form a Reich that will last 1,000 years. That's what they are doing. And people are wising up to it and saying no and rejecting it. Well, you've got a few years yet, 2027 for the next council elections, is it? Poor Glasgow. You'll be gone before that election happens. Yeah. But then you voted for it. You keep voting these people in, you get what you get what you deserve. Anyway, I'm going to round off and come up. You think it's bad now? Imagine an alternative reality where Scotland was independent, where the SNP were in charge, where there was no Barnett formula money going up, where there was no protection of Section 35 on the Sewell Convention. Imagine how bad it would be when you had the SNP forming a Reich that would last 1,000 years. Chaos and destruction. Scorched earth. They take you to the limit. They take you down to misery and poverty and then pretend that there is a brave new future. And all you have to do is keep voting for the SNP. My God, it's horrifying, isn't it? And the morons are still voting for them. They've got eyes. They look around. They see everything going wrong. They see an NHS falling apart. They see transport crashing. They see an economy in tatters, education screwed, the highest rate of substance abuse deaths in Europe, and what do? Oh, we're going to vote for more of the same, because they are morons, imbeciles, buffoons. They should take the vote away from them. They don't deserve to have the vote if they're that stupid. They're destroying Scotland every time they vote for the SNP. And then they blame England. They're the ones voting these morons in. Anyway, I shall stop there. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this has entertained and elucidated and informed. I hope so much that you're about to hit the like button on this video. And while your thumb's hitting the like, slide across and hit the subscribe button. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, stay out of the centre of Glasgow if you can avoid it, and goodbye.